Hi, I'm Anthony.
And I'm Nicole.
And this is
Life with
Twins.
On
last week's episode, we took a break from talking about the process of IVF and IUIs, and we did a little segment where we talked about why we chose to go the option of in vitro as opposed to adopting. We kind of broke down why it wasn't the right step for us, whether it have been adoption or fostering, and why we chose to go this route. So if you guys are interested in that, please make sure to check out that last video. But in this video, we are going to be talking about how we actually started to go forward with the process of IVF. Last step we were at, we had just gone through the fourth and fifth failed IUI. And those ones were at the new doctor. So
yes. And after our last IUI, our fifth IUI, we went on a little Vegas trip.
We saw Cirque du Soleil. Very good show.
Yeah, Anthony highly recommends it.
Oh, so
he
good.
sat the entire show like, he was very impressed.
I was very impressed.
Yeah, and it got to the point where he was like in his chair like this. He loved it. Anyways, when we came back, we intended on kind of talking to our doctor and deciding what the next step was. For us, we really wanted the next step to be going through IVF. We felt pretty confident that another IUI would not work. So I reached out to the doctor through the messaging service, and the office staff told me that he would prefer to do his own 3 IUIs versus relying on the 3 that we had previously at the other doctor's office. But for us, we were
done.
We already made the decision that we
not gonna do it.
Yeah, we were not gonna do another IUI.
Sorry,
for us, it was just another waste of time.
Kick rocks.
And waste of money.
Don't waste my money. Not doing it.
Yeah, we were like, no. So then I messaged the doctor's office again and was just like, well, I would like to have an in-person discussion with either the doctor or the nurse practitioner. So then just a few days later, we got an appointment with the nurse practitioner. And we went in there and, we were prepared to lay down the law and be like, we are not.
She was going to lay it down.
We are not moving forward with another IUI.
Don't you give me an IUI.
Yeah. So we were prepared to have to fight for that. But when we talked to her, she, was on the same page with us. She was like, she looked over our other doctor's protocol, the protocol that was given at this doctor's office. And she was like, I feel like you guys have given it a fair shot. 90% of women who get pregnant within the first, 90% of women who get pregnant with IUIs get pregnant in the first 3. We were at 5. She's like, so essentially you're chasing 10% every time you're doing a new IUI. And we were like, well, that just seems like a no-brainer then to not go for another IUI. So then we discussed going forward with IVF. And so then she brought in an IVF coordinator. And basically when you go through IVF, they have a certain amount of slots so they can do each month. And so it was already like the end of April. They had all the slots filled for May. And so then we would have to wait till June. So then she brought us in a calendar for what June would look like because they try to get everybody kind of on the same schedule. So they're doing their retrievals all around the same time. So what that looks like is basically as soon as my cycle started at the end of April, I got put on birth control and remained on birth control until we did our IVF stimulation. Reasons for that is to kind of control your cycle so that way they can make your follicles grow around the same time that they want everybody else's follicles to grow that's in that group, but also to kind of downplay your hormones so that they can kind of go for a fresh start.
Now, is that because that doctor's office specifically had such a high amount of implantations that they tried to be able to maximize the amount of work that they're doing?
I think almost every infertility facility that does IVF puts everybody on the same schedule.
Okay.
Because then you only need, the anesthesia and, the staff for that week
Sure. Makes
versus
sense.
needing it all the time.
Yep.
So she sat down with our calendar, and what was really cool about the calendar, at least for me, because I'm such a planner, was that we knew exactly when our doctor's appointments were going to be. So, it told us the day that we stopped birth control, the day that we were going to start our stimulation medications, and after our stimulation medications started, what days we needed to go to the doctor. But I did not realize that towards the end of like the week and a half of stimulation, you're going to the doctor almost every single day.
Yeah.
And
that's really one hard thing for anybody that's going through it who's not a nurse. And the reason I say that is because with you and your nursing schedule, you have a little bit more flexibility with trying to schedule your time to be able to meet those appointments.
Mm-hmm.
But for anyone who is working a 40-hour-a-week job and has no flexibility, that is very difficult.
I don't know how people do it. For me, I was fortunate enough to be able to I had just picked up a job at the college teaching clinicals, and I was very fortunate that I was able to find someone to fill in some of those clinical days for me. I was able to split shifts with people, so I work 7 to 7, but some of those days I would need to go in for ultrasounds, and so someone worked from 7 to 1 and I worked 1 to 7 so that I would able to go to the doctors, get my blood drawn, get the ultrasounds, because it is very crucial and critical to get all those ultrasounds, because they're waiting for the right perfect time where your eggs are, exactly where they need to be. And then they're like, okay, we're ready to go. We need a trigger. We need to do this. And so I didn't realize when we were meeting with them that it was like, that it is so scheduled and regulated. I did also sign up for FMLA to cover some of my doctor's appointments and to cover retrieval. If for some reason I had to be retrieved on a day that I had to work, then I would be able to call out and I would be protected. So after that doctor's appointment, it led to a lot of paperwork and a lot of signing documents, figuring out what we're going to do. Like it was almost like some of the paperwork that we got was kind of like a will in a sense for our embryos. So we had to really think about what we were going to do in the event of anything. Mm-hmm. So for example, there's a possibility, you don't know how many embryos you're going to get with this. There's a possibility that you could get 10 embryos and you have to kind of figure out like, well, you're not transferring all 10 at the same time. So,
Deca mom.
It discusses like keeping them frozen, like how long they keep them frozen there for. In the event of a divorce, like what do you do with your embryos then? In the event of like I dying, what do we want done with the embryos? Mm-hmm. In the event of both of us dying, what do we want done with the embryos? And so that kind of took some discussion and some real thought as to what exactly we would do.
Well, so everything that you're doing, it seems like it's so in the moment and it seems like it's so near, but then when you realize like once you do implant, what if you get that one takes and then years down the road you still have those embryos and things change between mm-hmm. people. And I guess like I didn't really realize that was the case about like how much of a long-term commitment this was until we were in that meeting and talking about all mm-hmm. of these different options.
Yeah, and talking about what we would want to have done with our embryos. But it did kind of become real to us. We knew that we had our 2 embryos frozen when we went to New York. Mm-hmm. And in New York we had a scare of a potential, we thought it was a shooting, but it really was just a car backfiring. But the whole Times Square freaked out.
When you're in Times Square and everyone is just mobbing through, just running, saying there's a shooter.
It felt like real life, like there was a shooter, and it really shook us up. But in that moment, it was just kind of like, wow, like this is why, they have that plan as to what to do with your embryos, mm-hmm. because we had every intention on transferring them as soon as we got back, but you know, there is those freak accidents where, you know, something could happen to you or both of you, and you have these embryos, and what do you do with them?
Yeah. So that's the first step, is just a lot of paperwork and trying to figure out what you're going to do in the event of long-term, doing the event long-term, because a lot of people, I mean, they do have the options when it comes to what you want to do with the extras. Some people are totally against doing anything, getting rid of them. What were the 3 options that they had offered?
So options as far as like what to do with embryos that you wouldn't want would be to destroy them. So just throw them in a trash. I'm sure it's maybe a little bit more humane than that, but probably not. Donate them to science. So science would take your embryos and kind of research and evaluate them, or adopt them out to another couple. Those were the options as far as like if we ended up with a lot of embryos, what we would do with them if we had more embryos than we wanted as children.
Yeah. What do you think about next week? We talk about exactly like the pricing, because we started getting bills and trying to figure out how much it was going to cost. So you want to do that next week? Talk about that?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Well, until then, we will say goodbye. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Please make sure to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. For anybody that is going through in vitro or having issues in general with getting pregnant, I think that we've been attempting to cover a lot of different ideas on how to approach the topic and our personal experience. So we hope that that is something that's beneficial to people like that and going through that situation. So please make sure that you let other people know about this. We're trying to grow and we're trying to help other people out there. But until next time, bye.
Bye.
Hi, I'm Anthony.
And I'm Nicole.
And this is
Life with. Since we've done a video.
The word is twins. It's the name of our channel. Life with twins.
I know, but I stole your line.
What was the line that you stole? Twins? You say life with twins.
Oh, I thought you normally say life with, and I say...
No, you always say life with, and then you try and surprise me on if you're going to say twins or not.
Okay, I thought I stole your line.
No, that's not the case.
Well, I guess it's not really that funny then.
All right, let's try that again.
Okay.
All right, so should we tell them the new names that we came up with?
No.
But
nobody knows names until they're born.
We did just finally come up with the names.
We did.
We settled on it. We know what it is. Maximilian Pegasus.
You're not supposed to tell that.
Tony and Romo. Peyton
and Shark.
Peyton and Manning. Okay.
Ew.
I know, right? Our babies would have gigantic foreheads if that was the case. He's shaking that baby mama. We were going to do a contest where we let you guys name our baby, but
then we got really scared.
We did, because there was that contest where they let the audience vote on, like the public vote on a new boat, like a multi-million-dollar boat, and they called it Bodie McBoatface. Just don't look cute. I'm just trying to look cute.
Take it off.
What are you singing? What are you singing?
Just this song that's in my head.
What's that song?
Baby shark, dude.
No, shut up.